Okay, let's start. Okay, so how was the test? Okay. Is it difficult at all? It is? Yeah, I'm surprised. But anyway, I'm surprised. I thought if you have run through the notes, it should be okay. Okay. But anyway, what has passed is passed. Don't worry about it too much. I'll take a look at the multiple choice part and see if you guys how you guys are doing on that. If you guys are not doing well on the multiple choice part as the last semester, probably I will cancel the multiple choice part and just give you 2 essays instead of a multiple choice part next time. So that you might do better if I give you two essays. Yeah. But anyway, we'll see. Some of you may prefer multiple choice, but the reality is multiple choice are actually more difficult than essay writing, because usually in essay writing you get partial credit, but in multiple choice, if you're wrong, you're wrong. You get the whole thing wrong. You don't get any points for that. So it's kind of difficult. Okay. Anyway, we don't have too much time, and we need to get going. Now, so far this semester, we have talked about various kinds of worldviews and also its implications in the ontological status of values. We have talked a lot about different schools of thought in values and how they respond to the 2 challenges of life and death, especially death. And this set a background, a overgeneral background of our discussions. Okay, we have not had any chance to dive into specific life and death situations. Okay, we were just talking about we have been talking about the general ideas of values and the general ideas of life and death, and I hope you can apply this background when we dive into the specific discussions of life and death situations. So the second part of this semester, as I have told you, we are going to discuss more specific life and death scenarios, which I plan to discuss abortion, euthanasia, and also animal rights, the killings of animals. But since we have only limited time left, if we do not have enough time, we're probably going to skip euthanasia. Okay, we will spend more time on abortion and animal rights. By talking about animal rights, we are actually talking about the difference of values between animals and humans. And that is exactly the discussion of why human life has special meaning and special values. Or do we have special meaning and values? And this is the key points that we are going to talk about when we get to that. When we get to animal rights, the discussion of animal rights. But before we dive into these specific scenarios of life and death, I would like to introduce some of the basic ethical theory, basic ethical principle that in the Western world, Western philosophical world, that are being used very frequently when they are discussing these ethical issues. Okay, so this type of ethical discussion is called applied ethics. Okay, applied ethics. When they say this applied ethics, is applying some kinds of ethical principle, and these are the principles that they are applying. Okay, now of course, the reasons I give you all those background, for the past few weeks, is to enlarge your scope of applications. These will be the only principles that the Western philosopher would apply. But I think it's too narrow, and this is why I spent a couple of weeks to go through other types of value system, so that you could have a wider scope to apply instead of just using what they have been usually been using. Okay, now please take out the have that handout ready. Lecture 7, if I haven't mistaken. That is on basic ethical theories. Okay, on this I have several basic ethical theories. I have ethical egoism, utilitarianism, and Kantian's theories, Lockean theories, and contract theories. Okay, so we have altogether 5. But with the limited time, I'm going to skip ethical egoism. Ethical egoism is an interesting theory that actually a lot of people hold. Okay, a lot of individual holds, but it is less used in so-called ethical discussions, especially applied ethics. So it's not totally ignored, but it's not the major one. So then we are going to. I think we can afford to skip that. So we should start with utilitarianism. Okay, utilitarianism is, of course, a consequentialist theory. By consequentialist theory, we are saying that we determine the ethical values of an actions by the consequence of the actions. Okay, by the consequence the actions produce. If the action produces favorable consequences, then these actions is typically will be considered ethically good. But on the other hand, if it produces undesirable consequences, it will be considered ethically bad. Now, ethical egoism would be the kind of consequentialist where the agent who is doing the actions only concerns about the consequences that concerns himself only. Okay, it's a very kind of selfish kind of views of looking at things. But of course, this is not a good interpretation of ethical egoism. But since we are not going to dive into that, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But what I need you to, I would appreciate less talk amongst you so that okay, utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is a kind of consequentialism where it concerns the consequence of the actions that will bring a consequence that has effects to a group of people. Okay, that has a group of people that is involved in this in the situation. So let's take a look at the principle of utilities. Now, the principle of utility states that the moral end to be sought in all we do is the greatest possible balance of good over evil. Meaning that whatever you do, your ethical aim is to maximize the good in your actions. It is to maximize the consequences. I mean, is to maximize the good that your action is going to bring about. Okay? So whether or not your action is good depends on the kinds of good it brings about. The nature of the action itself has nothing to do with the goodness of the actions, but the consequences of the actions is where we are looking at. Okay, so by good here, the father of utilitarianism, Jeremy Bentham, means pleasure and pain. So the original utilitarianism is actually a kind of theory that measures the goodness of an actions by measuring the pain and happiness that they are a pain or pleasure that it is going to produce. So if an action maximizes the pleasures to the people that is involved in the actions, then this tends to be a good action. But if an action tends to produce pain to the people involved, then this is considered a bad actions, ethically bad actions. Okay, so and also his follower, John Stuart Mill, who is the son of his student, incorporated the ideas of higher and lower pleasure into the theory, meaning that Jeremy Bentham himself only considered how much pleasure or pain is produced by the actions, but he has not considered the type of pain or the type of pleasure that it's going to produce. He sort of assumed that all pleasure is just pleasure. There's no high-level pleasure or low-level pleasure. So having an intellectual conversations with somebody or eating a great meal would be, if both of them are enjoyable, if both of them are pleasurable, then it's just pleasure, okay? So enjoying classical music and having a meal in the McDonald's wouldn't make much difference if they both generate pleasure. But of course, his follower, John Stuart Mill, said you have to differentiate these types of pleasure. Some pleasure are more valuable than other types of pleasure. Some pleasure are more, you see, using his term, okay, Paisley's terms, is higher pleasure. Some are, so to speak, lower pleasure. These need to take into considerations. But either way, what they're concerned with is whether or not an action is going to bring about the maximum amount of pleasures to the people involved. Okay? Now, according to this theory, an act is moral if and only if it has the tendency to promote the greatest possible balance of good over evil to the concerned parties. Now, note the word tendency. Tendency. They are not talking about actual pleasures. They are not talking about actual pleasure produced. Okay, say for example, if I'm a doctor, I prescribe a certain medication to a patient repeatedly for over a year, and the patient showed no sign of allergy or anything. So then he keep on prescribing the same kinds of drugs to the patient. But very unfortunately, the patient is allergic to the medications. But you need to build up the dosage in his body in order to upset his hormonal system, in order to have that allergic reactions. So then, for a whole year, the patient might not show any signs of allergic reactions. But with just one more dose, the person will be, burst into allergic reactions and have inflammation and stuff like that. Actually, I had a friend who used to take a drug that to keep his thyroids down, okay, thyroid reactions down. So he kept using that drugs for over a year without any problem. But just one day, with the same medication, just one pill, he was all blown up, all inflamed. He turned from normal color into purple. He turned purple, and then he has really high fever that never subside, and he was hospitalized for 3 months. Okay, for the first 2 months, the doctor, actually a group of doctors think that he's going to die. Okay, just because that one pill. Okay, now did the doctor who prescribed this pill to him did something wrong morally? According to utilitarianism, he did not, because his action has a tendency to do good to the parties involved, meaning the patient in this case. Okay, it has a tendency to make him well, because it has been making him well for the past year. So the doctor has reasons to believe that these drugs will work for him, in the future as well. But very unfortunately, beyond his knowledge, he's actually allergic to one of the ingredients of the pill, and which he didn't know. So in this case, utilitarianism measure it doesn't measure the actual pain or pleasure produced. It emphasizes on the tendency of the pleasure or pain produced. Okay. Now, so using this as a principle, if we are going to decide whether or not what to eat this evening, say you have 10 people deciding what to eat this evening. Okay, 9 of you wants to have sushi, and 1 of you wants to have pizza. So, according to this principle, what should you do? Of course, sushi, because 9 of you, if you go to have sushi, then 9 of you will be very happy. It brings pleasures to 9 people. And 1 of you would not be so happy because he wants pizza. So 9 happiness minus 1 pain or one sorrow, okay? Then you have 1 negative utilities. Then you have 8 positive utilities. You have 8 units of positive utilities, and therefore this is for the parties involved. These actions, going to have sushi, have a tendency to making more people happy than less people happy. Okay, so it's morally obliged for these people to have sushi instead of having pizza. But of course, they may have gone to a bad sushi restaurant without them knowing it and have this really bad sushi and then have diarrhea afterwards. Okay, everybody was sick afterwards. But this is the actual consequence of having bad sushi. But this is something that they cannot control. Okay, so as long as before they take the action seems to have the tendency to bring about the maximum amounts of pleasure or good, then this will be an actions that people has obligations, moral obligations to carry out. Now, so this principle with applications to specific situations sometimes demands actions that are contrary to the moral intuitions of general publics. For example, in the case of gang rape. Can you imagine a girl being raped by, say, 5 men? So the girl is very unhappy. And the 5 men supposedly happy, okay? Then we have 5 positive utility and 1 negative utility. Then 5 minus 1, we have 4. So then the man and the woman has moral obligations engaging in gang rape, okay? Now that would be ridiculous. That would be ridiculous. This is contrary to our moral intuition. Usually we would think that gang rape is one of the most bizarre, most obnoxious kinds of immoral act. And how could a moral principle ask people to do this? Okay, so this is contrary to our general moral intuition in the general public. Now, in this case, utilitarian would come up with a new form of utilitarianism to adjust their principle, okay, to adjust their principle in order to cater for these objections, okay. Now, the first attempt that they have come forward with is what we call rule utilitarianism. By rule utilitarianism, it is meant to be a remedy to such problems, okay. And rule utilitarianism, according to rule utilitarianism, we do not ask what action has the greatest utility, but which rule has the greatest utilities. So we do not ask whether or not this act of gang rape is going to produce the highest utilities for the people involved. We are asking if the society the whole society abide to one rules. Would this rule make the whole society better? Would this rule generate more utilities for everybody? Okay, instead of asking for one whether or not a specific action is going to generate more utilities. So, say for example, in that case, can we imagine that having women being gang raped by men become a rule for a society? Okay, this will make this society unbearable to live in. Okay, so if we abide to the rule that woman is in general obliged to be gang raped, every woman and those who love her will suffer from the fear and actual attack of the rapist all the time. There's always some people trying to rape you, okay? And they rape you in the name of justice. Okay, that would be ridiculous. Okay, and you have to comply in order to be moral. Now, this is something that just is too bizarre for the society to accept. So the utility of the society as a whole decreases. If that's the case, if everybody follows these rules, then the utilities of the society as a whole would decrease. Therefore, we should not set this as a rule. Okay. Now, so rule utilitarian basically believes that we should not examine action by actions. We should not apply the principle of utilities in specific action. The principle of utilities is only applied when you are setting rules for the societies. Okay, and that is what where the principle of utility should be used. Now, this, of course, seemingly would be more acceptable. All those rules that is going to, all those action, all those single action that is going to generate utilities for a lot of people, but at the same time, contrary to our moral intuitions, will be ruled out. See, for example, the other example of this would be allowing doctor to kill patients to save other patients. Say, for example, if you say, for example, there are 5 people who got into a car accident, and they are all families. Okay, so they have the same blood type. Okay, and each of them has one organs injured. One has the heart injured. One has the spleen injured. One has the liver spleen injured. So each one of them has one of the internal organ injured, and they are in critical situation. They are about to die. So the doctor didn't know what to do. But at that moment, he saw a janitor who just happens to work in the hospital and who he knows happens to have the same blood type as these 5 people. So that his organ could be transplanted to these 5 guys and save their life. So he needs to kill 1 person and save 5. According to the principle of utilities, if we apply the principle of utility in this act, the doctor would have the moral obligations to perform these operations, to kill 1 and save 5. But if the doctor come to the janitor and ask him, okay, I need to save these 5 people. Would you mind, sparing your life, giving up your lives to save these 5 people? If you don't, I'll have to throw this what do you call that principle of utility at you. Okay. Now you have the obligations of saving these 5 people. Okay. Of course, nobody would listen to you. So what you need to do is to say is to lure him into this, is to con him, is to set up a is to deceive him. Okay, by saying to him that say Mr. Chen. Okay, we have this full body examination, especially for employees of our hospital. It's totally free. Since you have been working for our hospital for so long, this is the time for you to enjoy this benefit. I would like to do it for you now. It's all free. It's just a whole body check. Okay, the whole body check might need some might put you to sleep for just a moment. Okay, and this is really a good deal. Would you have time to do it now? I have time. I can do it now. And the guy thinking that he's getting a good deal from the hospital, and then agreed to the operations, agreed to have this so-called body check. Okay, so then he lie down and got put away, and then he died. So this is a murder. This is a deliberate first-degree manslaughter. It's not even second degree. It's first-degree premeditated manslaughter. It's the worst kind of murder. Okay, it's the worst kind of murder. But according that, it would be ethically very unacceptable in the general from the general public. Okay, so but again, this might be required by the principle of utilities. If you apply a principle of utility in every single actions, so we have to set the rule saying that doctors should not kill 1 person to save others. Okay, we should have to have some kind of rule. We cannot kill anyone without the person's consent. Okay, so then we have to practice this as a rule, as a law. Okay, if we have that as a law, then people would feel safe in this society. When everybody feels safe in the society, then the utilities of the whole society increases, and therefore we should apply the principle of utilities on while we are setting up rules instead of applying it on every single action. Okay, this is what rule utilitarian would say. So most of the discussions on applied ethics, when they use utilitarianism as a support to their claim, usually they are using rule utilitarian. Usually, but of course, as most recently, Peter Singer, one of the most prominent philosophers of today's world, he came up with another version of utilitarianism called preference utilitarianism, okay, which is different from this. This is something that I will talk about when we get to animal rights, okay. But as for now, I would like to draw your attention to just rule utilitarianism, because rule utilitarianism would be the kinds of utilitarianism that most philosophers will appeal to. Okay, say for example, whether or not we should grant women the right to have abortion anytime they feel like doing it. Okay, should we allow women to have abortion? Okay, anytime, any period of the pregnancy, can we allow that on the ground that the fetus is living in the woman's body, and the woman has sovereignty over her body. She can use her body any way she wants. So if she doesn't want anything, okay, living in his body as a parasite, okay, then if she decided to abort the baby, she should have the right to do so. Okay, then we should set up a rule, set up a law that allows women to do so. Okay, so utilitarian, when they comes into talking about or discuss about applied ethics, they usually are appealing to rule utilitarian instead of act utilitarian. But the thing is, rule utilitarian has its issues. Now, rule utilitarian would still be challenged by the situation where a single act that defile a rule would maximize some people's utility, while does not negatively affect the society as a whole. Then what should we do? That means, say, for example, there's a rule, say, you should not step on the grass. We should protect the grass. Say this is the grass, the grassland, okay. Imagine this is grass, okay. Full of a piece of land that is full of grass in a park. Okay, there are two pieces of that. Okay, you're supposed to when you are trying to walk from here to here, you cannot step on it. You have to walk across. Okay, that's the rules. Just to protect the grass. Okay, to save the grass. Now, so we set a rule that nobody should step on the grass. But stepping on grass are fun. It's fun, right? A lot of people like to step on grass, especially with bare feet. My mother likes to do that a lot. She whenever she sees grassland, she just took off her shoes and step on grass. She's just like the feeling of touching soil. Okay, just my mother. Some people like that. Okay, so and also it's more convenient to step across the grass and just walk through. If there is only one person stepping through, okay, only one person stepping through, he broke the law, and enjoyed stepping on the grass. So the utility went up. Okay, for the whole society. If nobody stepped on the grass, they'll say the whole utility is say 100. Now we allow one person to step on it. It becomes 101. Hey, whole utility went up. But would that hurt the grass? No, just one people stepping on it, it wouldn't hurt. The grass is basically intact. So it wouldn't hurt the whole society. So by breaking the rules a little, maybe just one or twice, we allow some people to enjoy the rule breaking. But at the same time, we wouldn't let the whole system break down. Then, according to the basic utilitarian principle, this is exactly what you are obliged to do. You have to maximize the utilities, right? On what ground should you not maximize the utility in this case? you knowingly just allow some people to step on it. But you say, hey, that wouldn't be fair. If I allowed you to step on it, then I won't allow the other people to step on it, then it wouldn't be fair. Okay, just draw a lot. Okay, just say that, okay, we allow, so we have 100 citizens here. We can allow 3 people to step on the grass without hurting it. Okay, so we can only allow 3 people. And to be fair, I'll just let you draw a lot. So whoever draw the lot that gives you the rights to step on the grass, you have the license. You are granted the license to walk on the grass. Okay, there are only 3. Okay, there would be only 3. You cannot sell it, okay? If it's in Hong Kong, it will be sold, okay, for a lot of money. But anyhow, you cannot sell it. Okay, then we can increase the whole utility at the same time without destroying the whole system, right? Then on what ground that we shouldn't do it? According to the principle of utility, this is exactly what we should do, right? But also, people will say that this is still not really fair, right? This is still kind of fair. Think about the other situation, like open examinations. Okay, say for example, for every years in Hong Kong, there are 50,000 approximately, okay? Now, last year it's a little less, like 40-some thousand. 50,000 secondary school students participated in this open examination, okay? And the universities would look at your results from these open examinations to decide whether or not to admit you to the university, okay? Now, everybody is under great pressure in going through this. If I can cheat, it will eliminate a lot of, alleviate a lot of pressure. So it would be nice if I allow 1% of the student to cheat. If 99% of the students are honest, then the result is still trustworthy, right? The university wouldn't be corrupted just because 1% of the students cheated. So that on that ground, in order to relieve your pressure, I should allow 1%. Okay, if 1% of 50,000 is 500, something like that. Yeah, say 500. I should allow 500 students with a license to cheat. So I would just issue a license to cheat randomly. Send this license to cheat to the student who are supposed to participate in the open examinations. And whenever they cheat, as long as they can present the license, they will be okay. They will be okay. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? Now you say, well, yeah, you increased the utilities by say 5 more, and the system is still intact. The society is still running smooth, but there are more people happy. Becoming happy. According to utilitarianism, you should allow that. But then people say, no. The fairness we're talking about, we're not just talking about fairness being of opportunity. We are not talking about the fairness of distribution. We are talking about justice here. We are talking about justice here. By justice, we mean that everybody should be honest. Okay, honesty should be a value. Okay, honesty in itself should be a value. Not just honesty, even though it does not generate more pleasure. Honesty in itself should be an ethical value. Okay, this is some challenge that ag utilitarianism will have to face. Now, ag utilitarianism is a remedy to the problem that rude utilitarianism had run into. Now, let me just say a few words about ag utilitarianism. Now, ag utilitarianism basically agreed that we should abide to the rules in general. So it's basically rule utilitarian. They said that, okay, in general, we should not just apply the principle of utilities to every single action. We should apply the principle of utilities only when we are setting up rules. But we should also take into account that in some cases, when people break the rules, can generate more utilities without jeopardizing the integrities of the whole system, then we should allow that. Okay, this is what act utilitarianism would say. Okay, so but in particular situation where defining the rule would yield more utility to parties involved while not affecting the whole system negatively, then one should act so. Now, but of course, even with these adjustments, utilitarianism is still being attacked. One of the attack would be the one that I've just mentioned. Okay, that means you would allow people to cheat. But cheating, being dishonest, could be immoral in itself. Whether or not it generates more utilities, whether or not it generates more pleasure, it shouldn't be allowed. Just because more people will be happy. Okay? Now, and also, I do not remember whether I have gave you this example earlier when we talk about Confucianism. The James and the Indian example. Have I talked about that? The James and the Indian example? Okay, now this is an example that Bernard Williams, a philosopher by the name of Bernard Williams, a British philosopher, he has came up with a thought experiment as a challenge to utilitarianism. He said, okay, imagine there's Dr. James Leveson, okay, who is a real character, who is a 19th century British explorer who disappeared in the jungle of India in the mid 1800s. Okay, it was a big deal back then. Everybody in England was searching for him, but he just disappeared in the jungle. Until now, nobody has found him. Okay, he's probably dead. It's 100-some years ago, so he must be dead by now. But just imagine James Leveson. One day, he actually walked out of the jungle and saw the following scene. A group of British soldiers was playing a game of killing people. They have 10 Indians squatting down and about to execute them one by one, just for fun. Okay, just for fun. And before they shoot the first gun, before the commander shoot the first shot, they saw Leveson coming out. Well, they were happy. Oh, wow, we finally find you. I'm so happy that you are still alive. Hey, we are playing a game of killing people. Why don't you join us? Just kill one. If you kill one, I let the other 9 go. Just kill one. I will let the other 9 go. What should you do? Killing one, saving 9. According to the principle of utility, you have to kill one. And also, those 10 Indians squatting down will be pleading you, just kill one. Okay, kill any one of us. Okay, anyone. Well, I have 1 out of 9 chance not to be dead, right? Okay, it's not that easy that I'll be the one that you shot. So those who are being shot, who is about to be shot, would be pleading you to shoot him. And their relatives and friends on your background, everybody will be pleading you to shoot one. And every soldier on the site would like you to shoot one. That means everybody, it's to everybody's advantage for you to shoot one. Would you? But William said, James, if you do not think it is right to kill an innocent person, even for saving other people, if you do not have any experience of killing people to begin with, now you are given a gun to shoot someone who you do not know and who you know is innocent. They have done nothing wrong. Okay? Just fall prey into this imperialism of the British Empire. So you know that it is something that is not that knowing is wrong. Something is just that your conscience wouldn't allow you to do. Somehow your moral intuition does not allow you to do. You have struggled doing that, even though reasons dictate that you should shoot it. Okay? According to the principle of utilities and the interest of everybody on site, everybody is asking you to shoot. But just that you cannot shoot it. You do not feel like shooting it. You do not want to shoot it. Could an act still be a moral act when you yourself think it is wrong? even though it's objectively calculated to say that it is morally obliged for you to do so. Okay? So, what Bernard Williams is saying here is that without your own subjective moral intuitions, without the approval of your subjective moral intuition, would your act still be moral? Whether or not your action is moral might have a lot to do with your intention. It has a lot to do with whether or not you yourself think is moral. Morality is not something that is totally, entirely objective. It's not something that can be totally or entirely calculated. Okay, this is exactly what utilitarianism has neglected. They neglected the moral intuition. They neglected the moral sentiment that might be required in a moral act. Okay, solely depends on a rational deliberation might not be sufficient. So utilitarianism has these challenges. Okay, now the reasons why I point out all these challenges is that you will encounter a lot of discussion where they appeals to utilitarianism. If you are familiar with their difficulties, you can identify their problem or their issues more easily. Okay, much easier. Okay, so then this is something that I would like you to keep in mind. Okay, I think this is all the time I have for today. So we just cover utilitarianism now. Next time we'll start with Kant. Okay, Kant is not easy. Okay, Kant is not easy, which we'll probably spend more than half an hour on. Okay. Okay. Well, that's it for today, and let's take another 10 minutes break, and let's come back at 30 sharp, 5:30 sharp for Group A.